Howdy, everybody. Welcome back to the channel RVCCIS.info, where the full-time representatives here today, there's just three of us, from the Rock Valley College Computers and Information Systems Department, talk about things, roughly speaking, adjacent to computers. Today, what we thought we would do is give you some things to avoid when buying a new laptop or desktop computer. At this time of year, actually for students and faculty alike, it's a really fantastic time to go buy a computer because everything is coming up on sale for the upcoming school year. And even with the uncertainty or the fluctuations in what the next school year is going to look like, the things that we feel you should avoid pretty well stay the same. So we're going to talk about kind of the four phases of what we think you should avoid, and then some of our own long-held preconceived notions about things that you should avoid, you know, that may or may not be rooted in science, because it's not a science show. So who wants to take us out?
I'll go first, Eric.
Go for it.
So one of the things that you notice when you go look at laptops is the entry-level models or the low-end models for whichever family you choose, you know, Apple or, you know, Microsoft. They always start with 4 gigs of RAM, which really is just not enough in today's, I mean, even if you're just browsing the web and doing word processing, it's not enough. It'll do you a disservice if you get that low-end only 4 gigs of RAM. I would definitely stay away from that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can vouch for that. I have an older Surface Pro that has 4 gig of RAM, and that is its greatest bottleneck. Even after all this time, it's just the itty bitty RAM. So
the other thing, other than RAM, and I agree totally with the RAM comment, 8 gig at least is, you know, so stay away from 4 gig. And they all sneak in that 4 gig, you know, you notice it in there. If it's, you feel like, ooh, that's a good deal, it's probably 4 gig.
Right.
Yeah.
And then processors. Processors are something I like to look at. And AMD versus Intel, to me, it doesn't really matter as long as you pick a good one in either brand. And I always go for, I like Intel, and I always go for the i5s, i7, or even an i9, but they're pretty expensive for i9. So
yeah. So the one to avoid is the i or the M3, depending on how old a machine it is you're looking at. Those just, they don't have enough to chug along. So how many cores would you avoid?
Yeah, but see, I'm looking at it differently than some people. I would get the most cores I could possibly.
More cores, let's go.
And I was looking at the AMD Threadripper, and I think it like had, I don't know, some stupid number, 24. You know, it was just an ungodly amount. And then I noticed the price, and I'm like, oh, let's come back to reality.
You'll have like 8 virtual machines running at one time. Yeah.
Oh, that would be so awesome. So, anyway, I definitely don't really look at the cores too terribly much if it's somebody that needs something just for word processing or for school. So I just more concerned about a newer i5 or newer i7. So it's like a whatever generation is in that year. So
yeah, 10.
Right,
so.
Right.
Yeah. And finally, the i7s they're reasonably priced, relatively speaking, now. So
yeah, came out.
Yeah, and the i9 still just are not.
No.
Or, you know, the thermals are so bad, you end up, you know, paying all that extra for something that doesn't really outperform an i7 anyway. For those of you who are hoping we will nerd out on the positive side of what all of that means, the next episode is where we'll go ahead and do that. So fear not.
Yeah, and AMD, the processors to avoid, really, I don't know as much for AMD, but any older AMDs are going to be you want obviously the newer generation. And we'll talk about which ones to look at, because that's of course what we're gonna talk about next. But Eric, I don't know if you have any that you would land.
I would say if it's an AMD processor, I would stay away from anything that is 2 years old. It's real easy just to look up the model number and see when it was released. AMD has really, 2019 and 20, done a really good job of either catching up or passing Intel in some cases on some of their processors. But the ones that are older than that, pretty typically, especially in low-priced laptops, are going to be hot garbage, frankly,
Yeah.
and maybe something that you want to avoid.
Okay. So Eric, if you're like my brother, I'm the IT support guy for my brother. So what about storage?
Storage, that's a tricky one. Most of your cheap laptops come with 128 or thereabout gig of RAM, and that's just not enough. I have been tweeting about this, I feel like, all week because, and this is not bullshit, this is stupid but true. So the MacBook I'm recording this on, I bought in late December, 500 gig hard drive, full. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive in there, nearly full. And because video is so big, everything is just chewed up. My Surface Book has 128 gig starting storage, and right out of the box, just over 90 or so was available. And I filled that up in 4 weeks. Because once we got like Visual Studio on there, Visual Studio Code, Atom, Apache and other things to run some server stuff on there, which are all very small, we started running out of space. So 256 is, don't go under that. Storage is pretty cheap, I understand, but you're going to fill that up with, certainly if you're not going to fill it up with papers. This year, my suspicion is that all of us, you as students, us as instructors, we're going to do more video stuff. And video just takes up so much room. So I would avoid at all costs anything under 256 gig of storage, because you are going to fill that up with either content or legally obtained content. You know what I'm talking about, with all your music and videos that clearly you paid for. All of that is going to fill that up so very quickly, and it's just going to be a hassle.
Yeah, and you can do the SSD versus the hard disk drive too. I don't know. It doesn't matter. To me, it matters, but to others, it might not matter as much.
Yeah.
But
maybe that's even a good thing to avoid. This is 2020. A hard disk drive. So you'll see when you are going to purchase a machine, it'll actually say HHD or SSD. So an HDD is a hard disk drive, and it's the old-fashioned platter base, so it looks like a record in there, media, and they're just slower. So everything is slower. So when you're getting your operating system up and running, or when you're getting your software up and running, or when you are, accessing a Blu-ray DVD disc that was probably totally legally downloaded, I'm sure, all of those things are slower. And actually an SSD is really, it's one of those things that you will feel as a consumer first. So maybe that is a good inclusion. So avoid the hard disk drives where you can get them. Those are really mostly just found in the very, very cheapest of machines. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I think just like the processors, the solid state drives have finally gotten reasonable. You can get 500 gig, even gig or terabyte, I should say,
If you buy a laptop, that stuff still isn't as cheap as we would like.
No, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about cheap now. There's no cost value on things to avoid. All those do is add to, the cost of things that you should look for the next time around. But yeah, that's absolutely the case. And storage has come down. I know just today I put out 2 tweets. So for those of you still listening, go ahead and head over to Facebook or Twitter at RVCCISInfo, because on both of those venues you will see links just today, which will be days ago by the time this gets posted, I'm sorry to tell you. But there's a bunch of really good hard drives on sale. Samsung has 1 terabyte Evo drives for $100 even now, which is crazy unheard of. And there was a external portable USB-C and A drive with better than 1,000 megabits per second read speeds, which is crazy good. I want to say it was $70. Just a few weeks ago, I bought a similar one from Crucial for $80. So that price is really coming down here, and those are fantastic investments, but avoid the other side of that, short storage. So do any of us have other things to avoid? So when we go to buy hardware for ourselves, what do we remove from consideration before we even start to make the process happen?
Okay, I'll jump in on that because I'm kind of old. So one of the things that I do when I look at laptops is look for bigger screens. So I avoid like the smallest possible screen for a laptop, or even the keyboard. You know, I mean, the keyboard's not as big a deal, but the screen size for me, that's one of the things I avoid, are the small ones. I just think the more you're with it, it's cheaper, but you start to regret it as you move on, because you're going to keep it for 3, 4, 5 years, most people. So,
and on a similar vein, I would say avoid the display densities less than 1080p or thereabout. The ones with like 768, just those pixels are so large. Especially the cheapest laptops you will find are always, you know, it seems like it's good, or too good rather, to be true. Like, here's a 15.6-inch laptop and you're like, yay, and it's $400. And that's because it comes with 4 gig of RAM, 128 gig of hard drive space, and a 768 p monitor. And you can see all of those individual pixels. And for, you know, I say this in classrooms all the time, is you will become a pixel snob, especially when you're working with code so fast, because it's those, you know, big pixels I find that lead to eye strain more quickly. So I would stay away, similarly, because I'm old and blind also, from too small a monitor, but any monitor with too small a pixel density also.
I also, this is just me being a snob, I stay away. I want a touch screen. If it's a laptop, I want a touch screen. Mainly because I'm so spoiled. Like, it's like with my car. I bought something that had heated seats and a heated steering wheel, and now I just want that again. And that's kind of how I feel about my laptop. I want something that's fast and good, you know, and nice, but I also want that touch screen because it is. It is nice. And then you'll see me in school touching somebody's screen and trying. It doesn't work, but that's kind of the other thing I avoid, is non-touch screen. Because it comes with, it comes with just about everything anymore. So
yeah, unless you get a Mac, that's always the big drawback I get from people about a Mac. But there's no touch screen. I'm like, yeah, but don't touch it. So, but I will admit, when I am using my Windows PCs for a while, I'll come back to a Mac and will occasionally, you know, smudge the screen up and go, you dummy, that you knew that wasn't going to work. But are there any brands anybody tends to avoid?
Ooh.
They kind of go, it's like cyclical. You know, for a while recently I was back into Lenovo, but then I became laid off so many people that I'm like, maybe, I don't know. So that's the brand I've been going for right now. Jim, what did you just?
I just bought a Lenovo and I love it. I bought it at, you know, Cyber Monday, you know, Black Monday, through Amazon or whatever. right before Christmas and got a great deal, and there was no bloatware on it. I mean, it was clean as a whistle, just the operating system, and that was basically it, which I loved.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty happy with the Lenovo.
Yeah, and then the Surface. I mean, I think after anybody viewing this, I've bought a couple of Surface and I've just loved them. But really, I actually prefer my desktop.
Do you? Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Well, I got an i7 that I've had for 5 years with an Intel motherboard, and the two together have been fantastic with 32 gig of memory, and I have a terabyte SSD, and then I think I have a 4 terabyte hard drive. Yeah, and then that one's just a regular hard drive, and it's been going strong. And so I really do prefer my desktop, and I like to build my own, but it doesn't really, the cost doesn't really, it's not cheaper anymore than like it used to be. So.
Yeah.
I will say, so now that we've had it's good to build your own, I'll give you it's bad to build your own. So I've done it, professionally. I used to manage labs for schools too. So we would always build, which was a huge pain in the ass. And I'm a big advocate for not tweaking them that much, but I cannot tell you how many times I've heard students come back from, hey, did you build your dream PC like you wanted to over break? And then they'll give you this heartbroken expression where they tell you everything said the motherboard would work with the, and it just doesn't work. Or they started out to spend, $1,000, and after making the investments and everything else, it's like 30 to 50% higher. I'm at a place in my PC or Mac buying career where it's like, look, if it just doesn't work right out of the box, I don't have patience for it anymore. I will gladly walk through a couple of configuration options, but I'm not ever again going to like Parts Direct or Tiger Direct or Newegg to go build. Okay, now if I get this case, I can get this power supply. If I get this power supply, I can. Nope, not me.
Yeah, and the problem with Newegg now is they're all refurbed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And when you do a search, it's like, and then you uncheck refurbished, there's like nothing left in the list.
Huh. I didn't know that. Yeah.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah, but they do have pretty good prices for some refurb stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe foreshadowing to our next episode. Okay, any other long-held beliefs that we should avoid in buying machines?
When I look for software, I do not buy anything Windows Home, anything. They used to have Windows 7 Home, Windows, and then Pro, and then, so I just stay away from any of the Home or the lesser editions. I think, what is it, Windows S?
Yeah, Windows S, I would say stay away from. With Windows S, you can only install things from the Windows Store, and it is I will quote me in a classroom, Windows S stands for shitty. It is not a good experience immediately. So if you can live in Edge, which is going to be tough to do, Windows S is maybe okay, but oh my goodness, avoid it if you can.
Because I switched my Surface Go over to not S. So I upgraded it right away when I got it. And it was an option, thank God. So
yeah.
But I think that would be the last thing I would think about, would be the software.
Mm-hmm. Jim, how much you mentioned not going for the top of the line before.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I'm on board with this one. So
yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, whenever I look, one of the things I don't do is, whatever, brand you choose, whether it's Lenovo or Dell or, Apple, I never buy the top line model for that particular one, because I think, they just are obsolete. They're worse than cars. The day you walk out of the store with it, they're already, obsolete. And the price that you pay for that very top one, I just don't think it's a good bang for your buck. So I get, one or two of the, the models below it, but you still, you get enough RAM, and I like the ones that allow you to customize it. So, add more memory, get a bigger, solid state storage, and then walk away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the gaming computers. Like, they add more money just because it's a gaming computer and it looks cool and it's got a backlit keyboard. And you can go buy a business graphics computer for less money and have the same power and options.
Yeah.
Should have told my son that, Stephanie.
Well, put him in the picture. Is he at your house?
No, he's not. So yeah, you could have said I told you so. Yeah.
Well, or we could reach out through social to rub that in. So speaking of social, be sure to follow us on all of our social media. We are at RVCCISInfo on both Twitter and Facebook. Be sure to leave a comment below. Let us know what things it is that you try to avoid when you are looking to pick up a new computer of any sort. Be sure while you're leaving that comment to go ahead and subscribe and hit like and that bell icon to be made aware of any and all of our future shows. What we try to do is either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, put premieres out there at about 6 p.m. for everybody so that you've got new, fresh content to be able to help you through your weeks of quarantine and etc. So on behalf of RVCCIS.info and us, most of the full-time faculty for Rock Valley College's Computers and Information Systems Department, Jim Conley, Stephanie Washer, and myself, Eric Wolf, stay safe and stay sane out there, everybody.